Good day, everyone. Welcome to ALSD International State of the Industry. My name is Rob Hunden, and I'm thrilled to be here, but unfortunately, I'm not thrilled because I'm not there in person, and I'm halfway across the world. And we hope that with COVID, everything will be a lot easier to travel internationally in the future. But we're very excited to present the State of the Industry for you. So let's just get right to it because, as always, we have so much information packed inside here. First, a little bit about Hunden Partners. We're based in Chicago. What do we do? We're master placemakers. We do nerdy work for cool places, including conducting market and financial feasibility studies and economic and fiscal impact analyses on all kinds of major venues, stadiums, arenas, as well as the entertainment districts that surround them, and every piece and part, including hotels, convention centers, retail, restaurant, office, housing, etc. So that's what we do, and we do it all over the place. And that's why we are super excited to be here talking with you today, at least virtually. So welcome to ALSD International. This is our second year doing this. I presented back in Dublin in 2019, and that was great fun. So right now we've got more than 10 billion euros in international sports projects currently finishing or underway, and 6 billion in just the last 3 years. Featured in this year's presentation, the updated venue database, new builds and major renovation profiles, entertainment districts, FIFA World Cup facilities, esports, and private equity investment. Now there's more than we have time for, so I have to really move quickly. So first off, the International Venues Database. This is our international database, non-North America. We have one for North America because we've been presenting at ALSD North America for the last 5 years. But we have now the international database. It includes 400 stadiums and more than 120 arenas worldwide. And for purposes of a cutoff, we have minimums of size for these. So for football stadiums, 50,000 plus, same with rugby, cricket, 35,000 plus, Formula One gets past. And now our arenas database, we're at 15,000 plus around the world. This comprehensive arena database covers 120 arenas worldwide above 15,000 capacity, and analyzes trends in new builds, renovations, and expansions, and premium spaces, and more. And we really focus on what's new and changing and what trends are happening. So this allows us to help make projections for the future. So the pace of new projects is already strong into the 2020s. We're just into this pandemic decade, and already we've got 20 stadiums and 10 arenas either opened or in process around the world, not including North America. Spending on new venues continues to grow, even though the number of new venues bounces around from year to year. There's an overall trend of more, led by football. And of course, we show cricket, rugby, and Formula One here. We don't show that spending on the arenas because this one is focused mostly on sports venues. Right now, we've got an average of roughly 750 million euros spent per year on new venues, with most of that going to football venues. Stadiums built by decade. Well, first off, we've got 20 plus facilities completed or underway in the 2020s, as I mentioned up front. And really, you've seen since 2000, we have about 45% plus of venues that are active right now have been built in the past 20 years. So that's pretty impressive. So a lot of growth happening. Arenas built by decade. We have 11 arenas completed or underway in the 2020s just so far. Football builds are driving market growth. As you can see here, we've got we've got 9 opening in 2022, 3 this year, 9 next year, and then we have a continuation through 2025. So that's very exciting, and more on the way. Arenas by continent. North America still leads Asia with 38, 54 in Europe, but the arena growth really continues to expand. This is something that has not been as much of a focus because of the different kinds of sports that are really in focus. But as for entertainment, arenas are really becoming a big deal more and more around the world, not just in North America where basketball and hockey are popular. In terms of new builds, international football stadium new builds for the next 5 years, we've got the San Siro Stadium, which has yet to be chosen which design they're going to go with, but after the mayoral election coming up, they will make a decision, and the stadium will be open for the 2026 Winter Olympics and will likely be the opening ceremonies site. And it will also play host, of course, to AC Milan and Inter Milan. And that is a huge cost there, 1.2 billion. Now, here you are in Liverpool, and just 3 weeks from the groundbreaking for the Everton new stadium, so the Bramley Moore Dock Stadium. So it's going to be exciting for you. I'm sure you're going to learn all about it during your visit to Liverpool, but this is something that I wish I could see the groundbreaking of, but I'll be more excited to see it when it's all finished in just a few years. So $500 million there. Estadio Nou Mestalla in Valencia, Spain, 75,000 capacity, underway, looking to open next year. Guangzhou Evergrande Stadium in China, 100,000 capacity, absolutely huge. Reported cost 1.4 billion, supposed to open at the end of next year. In Kunshan, China, another one, 45,000 capacity, expected to open next year. The Chongqing China Football Stadium, which will host the 2023 AFC Asian Cup, capacity of 60,000. Don't know the cost, but it is expected to open next year, of course, in time for that 2023 Asian Cup. We've done a lot of research on the resurgence of stadium and arena development in Latin America this year, and there's a lot on the boards. We'll just profile a couple of them today, but there's a lot going on. This one in Brazil is one opening in 2022, Arena MRV. Then we have Nuevo Estadio León in León, Mexico, and that one will be opening in 2023. Capacity of 35,000. And then we have the Estadio Yucatan. And this one's going to be really, really interesting because it is a convertible venue that is a circle, but it allows the stadium to be changed sort of from within the inside, shifting around the stands and the spaces within the circle so that the fields can be fit for either football or baseball. And so that is a bit of a throwback to the stadiums in the United States back in the 50s and 60s that had both, that accommodated both. This is a new design of such, so it's very exciting. We had a video of that for another presentation earlier this year. You should check it out. International Cricket Stadium new builds. Now, this is actually a renovation of the 132,000 capacity Modi Stadium in India, absolutely massive and underway right now. Then international entertainment arenas, new builds. We have the Etihad Arena in Abu Dhabi, capacity 18,000, and is part of the $2.8 billion project there that we'll be showing you about here in a minute. Co-op Live Arena in Manchester, England, capacity 23,500. That's absolutely huge for an indoor arena, 350 euros there, opening year 2023. Speaking of Euros Live Arena in Tampere, Finland, capacity 15,000. Not a huge arena, but very cool looking. Reported cost 124 million euros, opening year December of 2021. Others that we are keeping an eye on because they're fascinating: the Sydney Football Stadium in Australia, the stadium in Athens, Greece, the Hagia Sophia Stadium, the $55 million Stadio Cagliari in Italy, and the Barracuda Bay Stadium in China. So now let's turn to the FIFA World Cup. So Here, of course, we've got Qatar, the smallest country ever to host the FIFA World Cup, and they've got 8 different facilities underway. So we've got a lot of venues here. We have the Lusail Iconic Stadium in Qatar. Well, all of these, of course, are in Qatar. The Al Bayt Stadium, the Al Janoub Stadium, and the Ahmed bin Ali Stadium. So all of these range in size, and also they all range in future use. They will all be changed. Most of them will be changed in their future use for different future purposes. That's we don't have time to go into all of that, but we've got tons of research on this, and it's really fascinating what they're planning to do. We also have these 4 here, the Education City Stadium, and many more, most of them in the 40 to 50,000 capacity. But as you can see in the prior slide, we have the Lusail Iconic Stadium at 80,000 capacity. World Cup locations in 2026. This is the first time that more than 2 nations have combined to host the World Cup in 2026, and all of the venues are already built. So there are enough existing venues in North America, which will share this prize to be able to not have to build any new venues, as that's similar to the Olympics. It's a lot of pressure to put on one country to be able to host all these. But luckily in the United States and Canada and Mexico, they have enough facilities to do this already. And then in 2030, who's going to have the World Cup? Well, there's lots of speculation out there about who will have the World Cup, and we will keep an eye on it. But this map shows the times as host for the World Cup. And there is speculation is rife. We have our thoughts. And there are many rumors, but it's always exciting to see who's going to get the bid. So World Cup Stadium new builds. So let's talk about Education City Stadium in Qatar. This is part of a 5.5 billion euro project across all 4 facilities that it will be a part of. It is absolutely massive. And then, of course, the really big one is the Lusail Iconic Stadium, as we talked about before. And then we have this Al Tumama Stadium here. All of these look super cool. And then here's the one that we're really going to focus on. This is one, as you know, there's this idea that, why would you build all these stadiums for one-time use? We have that thought with the Olympics when the Olympics leave, like in Brazil, and a lot of these stadiums and facilities fall apart. And same with World Cup. What happens to all these facilities? Do they still keep getting used, or is there a future use for them? So in this one, it is designed to be made to be completely disassembled in the future. So we're going to show that to you right now. So the shipping containers then are used to help create other venues in other places afterwards. So as this gets disassembled, other venues that are smaller get assembled in different places using those same shipping containers and all the materials they can hold. And so that is the idea behind the Ras Abu Aboud Stadium. Now, how about the FIFA Women's World Cup? Is bidding nations Australia and New Zealand 2023. They are hosting, and we have many venues here, including the opening ceremonies in Eden Park in Auckland, New Zealand. This is where the All Blacks play. And we have other stadiums shown here, some really glorious stadiums in Australia and New Zealand for these facilities, including the Stadium Australia, the Sydney Football Stadium, Moore Park, the GABA, and Hindmarsh Stadium in Adelaide. And 2 more here in Perth and Melbourne, and just will be an absolute great time. World Cup Stadium redevelopment. So here we have the Sydney Football Stadium in Moore Park, Sydney, Australia, 45,000 capacity, part of a $700 million project or Euro project. And so now we're going to move from major sports venues to esports venues. So the explosion of esports, we've got this absolutely exploding. A lot of people don't consider it a sport because people don't move around a lot, but they are. This is a very, very popular thing, and virtually things are moving around, and the absolute growth in viewership is astounding. And you saw how China is now limiting how much time youth can spend playing video games. It's interesting. I'm not sure that they are going to restrict adults because adults are often the ones that are playing video games the most, not just kids. But anyway, it's certainly the wave of the future, and it's expected to grow at a 9% annual growth rate or more. In 2019, almost 500 million viewers. Total investments have grown tenfold just in the last 3 years. And it is expected that this industry will exceed $1 billion in revenue this year in terms of esports, not just the video game industry, which of course has billions already. Esports in Europe, this is a map of the growth in European esports. The share of respondents who spend more time, so the growth in 2020 versus 2019. Of course, there was a pandemic, so people had a lot more time to sit around than they did in 2019. So we had this huge growth of esports or gaming going on, and especially in Southern Europe, where these lockdowns were more severe. So I think there's probably a tie there. Now, esports venues, these are typically smaller venues. So in Dundee, Scotland, 4,000 capacity, Bristol, UK, 1,500 capacity. Because we have the Chongqing, China, they're doing multiple facilities, 7,000 capacity, and the X Stadium in Dubai, which is pretty large. We don't have a capacity on that. We also have the Toronto Esports Arena proposed, part of a $500 million project with a capacity of 7,000, and is projected to host 200 events per year and have an attached hotel complex. And here is the very cool looking facility in Chongqing, China, with interior and exterior LED screens and part of a much larger complex. Now we have the continued explosion of entertainment districts, live, work, play, visit. One of the ones we worked on is the T-Mobile district in San Juan, Puerto Rico. We're going to show you a little bit about Yas Island in Abu Dhabi. We have the Co-op Live in Manchester, and of course, Mercedes-Benz Platz has been around for a while in Berlin, and it's fantastic. We've talked to you about the San Siro district. This is part of a much bigger district that's going to be hosting the 2 teams there, AC Milan and Inter Milan, and will host the 2026 Winter Games. And then we have Qiddiya in Riyadh, KSA proposed. It's proposed to open in 2030. We'll have multiple sports facilities and be part of a much, much larger entertainment district that is planned for that capital city as they become more and more, I guess I would say, somewhat westernized as the country opens up to really tourism and seeing the benefits of tourism. Let's take a look at the Yas Island project, which is 55% completed and has been host to some huge events already. Now, one of the features that we wanted to sort of get towards the end with is this rise of entertainment districts all around the world, and how these really help create an atmosphere before and after events, especially games, both in the United States and all over the world. And like we just saw in in Abu Dhabi, Yas Island, these oftentimes we know that these stadiums are uber expensive and really can't be afforded without some other support. So a lot of times it makes the most sense to have that support come from commercial development that happens around it. So if a district can be created that can recapture revenues from that commercial district to help fund the stadium or arena, then that works out well. And that's been happening all across mostly North America, but in other parts of the world for a while now. And this is one of the things that our practice focuses on. So the Deer District in Milwaukee got a lot of press because of the Bucks winning, but also just not only winning the NBA finals, but just the playoffs and the finals. Everything was hosted. When they were hosting their games there, everything happened around the Deer District, including where ESPN and all the other people and press were located. So you just had this constant press junket of attention paid to the Deer District in Milwaukee. And this is after a long time when Milwaukee's area down here was not that great. It was an area where there was an interstate highway that went to nowhere. Everything was a real problem. And so they've had a number of facilities for the Bucks over the last 50 plus years. And the new one includes this entertainment district, which really joined some disparate areas, and it's still underway. There's more development to come. But of course, when they were playing the Phoenix Suns in the NBA finals, this Deer District, as they call it, became ground zero for the city and statewide spirit, and more fans showed up on successive nights. And so in the deciding final, game 6 in Milwaukee, brought as many as 80,000 total fans to the Deer District. And even at watch parties, when they were not playing at home, 9,000 fans watched inside the facility, but 65,000 fans came to watch outside the facility. So that shows you just how popular it was, even when the team wasn't at home. And the rise from pandemic to public crowds is likely the most dramatic in Milwaukee of any city in the US, beginning in June, because they had an extra reason to go downtown. So from an average of 10,000 people per week to between 100 and 150,000 visitors per week. And this is just after 5 p.m. In this district. This is not during the day. You can see there how it launched up. Game 5 was in Phoenix, but the Deer District hosted a watch party. As I mentioned, attendance was better than their home games 3 or 4. Milwaukee won the last 4 games, contributing greatly to this daily attendance increase. And you can see there that in that game 6 home win, we have an absolute blowdown of a number of people in the district. Now, we can track all this with cell phone data, which is how we get these data points. 16% traveled from between 50 and 100 miles away. Another 15%, 1 out of 7, came from more than 100 miles from Milwaukee. So almost a third of visitors to the Deer District live over 50 miles away, according to our cell phone data. So again, these kinds of districts, not only the games themselves, but the districts, create that synergy that give people a place to go. So even if you can't go to the stadium or arena, you can go and feel like you're part of it by having this party outside. And then we have a nice diversity of household income spectrum for these visitors, from $0 a year, college students likely, and others, all the way up to more than $200,000 per year. And this is, again, visits to the Deer District after 5 p.m. And then here you can see that people come from far and wide. And so this geofencing data from cell phones just shows how far people come to go to this. And this was just during that time period. We also have much more micro data and granular data that shows where people go within the facility and outside the facility. This is over about a 6-week period during the finals, the playoffs and the finals, to show where people were specifically. And we can track that and show that they spilled out across the river over to Water Street. And so this shows that these developments, when done well, can really revitalize an area. So just to finish up, private equity investments and mergers, there are more than 57 professional sports teams now with a valuation of over $2 billion. There's been a huge growth in broadcasting and gaming revenues. And there are many, many private equity deals now going into stadiums and teams, especially as they see that as raw new content that continues to bring value, and they are investing in that heavily. So this has continued to go up, and we've seen it all over the place. And just announced this week was the merger of Oakview Group and Spectra. Spectra will no longer be a part of NBC, Comcast, Universal. It will now be merged with Oakview Group, and all of these forces are coming together. So that, again, that was driven by Silver Lake, a private equity firm. And so there's a lot more of that to come. And so we're going to see this worldwide, I think, investment continue, as well as monetization of these assets. So future implications, we're going to see more flexibility, more mixed use districts, higher standards for facilities, more esports. We're just going to see continued additions to facilities, as well as the things around them, and the premium spaces, of course, which continue to support those. So thank you very much, and have a great rest of your conference. Take care.